You know, nature has this incredible way of throwing curveballs at us when we least expect it. Today, I want to share with you one of the most extraordinary stories I've ever come across, a tale that challenges everything we think we know about wild animals and domestic pets. Picture this. A domestic dog becomes a mother to three bobcat cubs. Sounds impossible, right? But this actually happened, and what unfolded next will blow your mind. The unlikely beginning. It all started when three tiny bobcat kittens were found orphaned in the wild. These were your typical house cats. Bobcats are fierce predators, weighing up to 40 pounds when fully grown, with razor-sharp claws and hunting instincts that have been perfected over millions of years of evolution. Now here's where it gets interesting. A female dog, who had recently given birth to her own puppies, did something that defied all natural instincts. She adopted these wild bobcat cubs as her own. Can you imagine? This domestic dog, whose ancestors were wolves thousands of years ago, suddenly became the surrogate mother to three future apex predators. The science behind cross-species adoption. What makes this story even more fascinating is the science behind it. You see, maternal hormones are incredibly powerful. When a mother dog is nursing, her body produces oxytocin, the same hormone that creates bonds between human mothers and their babies. This hormone doesn't discriminate based on species. It simply says protect and nurture the young. But here's what most people don't realize about bobcats. They're not just bigger versions of house cats. These are serious predators. Adult bobcats can leap 12 feet horizontally and 8 feet vertically. They have night vision that's 6 times better than humans, and their bite force is strong enough to crush small bones. Growing up wild, or not. As the weeks turned into months, something extraordinary happened. These bobcat cubs began exhibiting dog-like behaviors. They would wag their tails when excited, come when called by name, and even learn to play fetch. It was as if they were caught between two worlds, their wild instincts and their domesticated upbringing. But nature has its own timeline, and you can't fool genetics forever. As these cubs approached their first birthday, their true nature began to emerge. Their hunting drive intensified, their territorial instincts kicked in, and suddenly, the family dynamic that had worked so beautifully began to shift. The unthinkable moment. Here's where the story takes that heart-stopping turn. One day, the inevitable happened. The survival instincts that had been dormant for months suddenly awakened. The largest of the three bobcats, the one who had been the gentlest, the most dog-like, looked at his adoptive mother not as family, but as something else entirely. In that moment, millions of years of evolution kicked in. The wild called back its children. What this teaches us about nature. Now, before you think this is just a tragic tale, let me share what this really reveals about the natural world. This story shows us that animals are far more adaptable than we give them credit for. It demonstrates that nurture can temporarily override nature, but it also reminds us that wild animals, no matter how they're raised, remain wild at their core. The dog's maternal instinct to protect and nurture transcended species barriers. The bobcat's ability to adapt and learn from their surrogate mother showed incredible behavioral plasticity. But ultimately, their genetic programming prevailed, not out of malice or ingratitude, but because that's simply what nature intended. The bigger picture. This incredible story reflects something we see throughout the animal kingdom. From wolves adopting bear cubs to elephants caring for orphan rhinos, cross-species adoption isn't as rare as you might think. It happens because the drive to nurture the young is one of the most powerful forces in nature. But it also serves as a crucial reminder for those who think they can keep wild animals as pets. These bobcats didn't become aggressive because they were cruel, they simply grew into what they were always meant to be. Wild animals belong in the wild, not because we don't love them enough, but because we love them too much to deny their true nature. The legacy. Today, stories like this help wildlife rehabilitators understand the delicate balance between helping orphaned wild animals and preparing them for their eventual return to nature. The dog who raised those bobcat cubs gave them something precious, a chance at survival during their most vulnerable weeks. But she also taught us that love sometimes means letting go when the time is right. The next time you see a wildlife documentary or hear about unusual animal friendships, remember this story. Remember that nature is both more flexible and more determined than we often realize. And perhaps most importantly, remember that the wildest stories are often the truest ones of all. Because in the end, this wasn't just about a dog and 3 bobcats. It was about the incredible complexity of life itself and how sometimes the most unexpected relationships teach us the most profound lessons about what it truly means to be wild.